Well, their jobs as special advisors might be loosely described as policy coordinators, but critics say the so-called czars, who number into the 30s, maybe even 40s in the current administration, have obvious influence over shaping federal policy, and Congress has little or no oversight of most of their appointments. Republican Senator David Vitter from Louisiana is one of the lawmakers leading the anti-czar charge. He joins us live now from New Orleans. Senator, thank you for your time today.
Thank you, Shannon.
What are your concerns about the czars, and what are you doing about it?
Well, lots of folks have concerns about the czars, including me. It also, in the Senate, includes Democrats. Robert Byrd wrote to the president as early as February expressing strong concern. Russ Feingold also has strong concern. I just talked with him about this on Thursday. And the concern is simple, that they're overstepping the Constitution by having very powerful officials who have essentially power like cabinet secretaries, but who don't have to be vetted or confirmed by the U.S. Senate, and who don't regularly come before Congress for oversight. So it's a very significant constitutional argument and constitutional concern. What I'm doing about it is joining with many other folks, Republicans and Democrats, to express that concern, and putting forward a bill to change this, to say, look, you can have these high advisors with significant authority, but the Constitution says they should be confirmed by the Senate. They should go before Congress on a regular basis.
Well, last Wednesday night, or excuse me, the Wednesday before, the president, in giving his speech about health care, said that he would begin calling out people who were spreading misinformation or those who weren't being completely honest with the public. And this week on the White House blog, they called out people who are upset about the czars, publicly naming some of your colleagues there in the Senate. They say there is no position such as a czar within the administration, and point to the fact that previous Republican presidents had people that would equate to this position. How do you answer that criticism?
Well, certainly there have been powerful White House advisors before, but this administration has brought it to a whole new height with dozens and dozens of these so-called czars. This week I'm going to have an amendment on the floor of the Senate regarding the climate change czar, Carol Browner. She seems to be one of these key positions, very powerful, on a par or even higher than cabinet-appointed officials like the administrator of EPA. But it's not a position created by Congress. She doesn't go before the Senate for confirmation. She doesn't ordinarily come before Congress for oversight. So I think this is a classic case, which is why I'm focusing on this one case this week. And I'll have an amendment that says no federal funds can be used by this office to institute policy, which is really the job of EPA and other official agencies of the government, with appointees who come before the Senate for confirmation.
All right, let's talk about another issue that you've been concerned about long before it captured headlines like it has in the last couple of weeks. ACORN, you've been concerned about the group for a long time. Tell us about the past efforts you've had to cut off their funding at some point, and why you think it's finally coming together, that you've got colleagues on both sides of the aisle willing to do that and voting to support that.
Well, going back months, I brought 2 amendments to the Senate floor to defund ACORN, and unfortunately this was several months ago. They were defeated on party line votes. Now, because of this dramatic video, Democrats can't help but admit that there are fundamental problems there, so we're winning those votes now. But I want to underscore, ACORN is not defunded yet. We had 2 positive Senate votes, but they're not defunded yet, and we need to push those provisions all through the Congress, including the House.
And with activity on both sides of the aisle, if it does coalesce, and on both sides of Capitol Hill as well, with the House and Senate, if something gets to the president's desk, what position do you think he'll be in, given that there are connections to ACORN in the past? He now says he is supportive of an investigation. Would you expect him to sign something that would actually defund this group?
We'll see. Shannon, I thought the clip you played right before our interview was very interesting, because he obviously shied away from even talking about the defunding issue. He didn't want to come close to that. He certainly didn't say it was appropriate to defund ACORN. That causes a serious ongoing concern on my part because of all of his political ties to ACORN. And that's the fundamental issue. Really, there are 2. Number 1, criminal activity, and ACORN has been been indicted and convicted in some cases of criminal activity, not just what you saw on the tapes recently, but even more seriously, perhaps, election fraud going back to last fall and before. And number two, fundamentally being a political organization of the left funded with taxpayer dollars, which is completely inappropriate.
Certainly ACORN's gotten a bulk of the attention in this issue, but it was on your radar months ago. Are there other groups out there you think that we should be worried about where there's similar activity and federal dollars involved?
There are similar groups. It's all sort of a network associated with ACORN, some directly, some indirectly. Here in Louisiana, for instance, there was another group that focused on voter registration and committed widespread voter registration fraud. It wasn't ACORN, but it was very similar. So I do think this is a broader issue. And quite frankly, what's been going on is that Democrats, the left in Congress, is just rewarding their political allies who work for them in elections with hard-earned taxpayer dollars, and that's flat out wrong.
All right, we'll stay tuned to see how this plays out, and if it does get to the president's desk, Senator David Vitter, thank you for your time today, sir.